I am in charge of coordinator of general education at Harrisburg University of Science and Technology, and I'm teaching courses on the management side, on the ISM program and e-business program that we have over here. Today we talk about developing an effective ethics program. Ethics and professional ethics is getting enough attention in the corporate world. There is one argument, of course, in the market that corporations are moral agents in the society. Corporations are increasingly viewed as moral agents that are accountable for their conduct to stakeholders. When we are talking about professional ethics, when we are talking about ethical programs in various corporations, of course, besides the question of moral agent, the corporations are accountable. That is a perception to the stakeholders of the company. And as all of us, of course, know, the stakeholders are more than the stockholders of the company. The stakeholders are those who have any interest in the company. Overall, in the last couple of decades, society holds companies accountable for employees' conduct, their decisions, and of course the consequences of their actions in the society. People want the companies not only to respect laws and regulations, but also go beyond it and act ethically when it comes, of course, to their behavior in the society. In the last few years, scandals in the corporate America have reduced trust, of course, in business. Understanding the factors that influence ethical decision making can help companies encourage ethical behavior, and employees are not legal experts and need guidance. Then in that sense, in that context, companies need to set up guidelines, set up trainings for their employees, and develop programs that can encourage the employees to act and react and perform ethically in their business interactions. The need for corporate ethics program. Organizations should develop an organizational ethics program by establishing, communicating, and monitoring uniform ethical values and legal requirements. Overall, when a company wants to establish an ethical program, that ethical program can include a couple of these items in terms of the ethics and the ethics program. A strong ethics program includes written codes of conduct, ethics officers to oversee the program, care in the delegation of authority, formal ethics training, auditing, monitoring, enforcement, and revision of program standards. Auditing is a very important process in establishing any ethics program because without auditing, of course, the company doesn't go anywhere. They have to check and see continuously where the company is in terms of ethical standards and respect for ethics. Effective ethics program helps ensure that all employees understand the organization's values and the company with the policies and the codes of conduct that creates its ethical climate. An ethics program can help avoid legal problems, of course, in the company too. There are two approaches to ethics when it comes to corporations. One approach, of course, is called compliance orientation, and the other one, values orientation. Compliance orientation requires that employees identify with and commit to a specific conduct, uses legal terms, status, and contracts that teach employees the rules and penalties for non-compliance. Under the compliance orientation, the companies are mostly concerned about rules and regulations. But there is another approach, of course, to professional ethics and ethics program, and that is called value orientation. And the value orientation, companies and corporations focuses more on an abstract core of ideals such as respect and responsibility. Research shows that it's most effective at creating ethical reasoning. There are two arguments over here that, of course, any company, international company or domestic companies, they have to have, of course, compliance or ethics code to be written for their employees to follow. But at the same time, the company has to advocate values when it comes, of course, to in the areas of the ethical performances. And for value orientation and ethics, companies, they have to establish new cultures to respect ethics in business performance. There are three ways, of course, to push any company toward ethics code. One is the codes of conduct that you have to establish, and that is formal statement that describes what an organization expects of its employees. It's a written document, it is an official document. The second one is a codes of ethics. Most comprehensive document consists of general statement that serves as principles and the basis for the rules of conduct. Usually they put the codes of conduct under the codes of ethics. The codes of ethics, as we discussed over here, is much broader in that sense. And many companies, they add to these two things, of course, and they have a statement of values. A statement of values in any corporation serves the general public and addresses a stakeholder's interests. They put it together, of course, after they bring together their stakeholders, there, get their perception and how they want, the company, of course, pursue ethics and ethical programs, and they put together their statement of values. And that is something that many companies at the moment adhere to and they are following. The corporate code of ethics usually concentrate on 6 principles. One of them, of course, is trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. The last one is very important. The last one, when we are talking about citizenship, we are talking about corporate social responsibility. More than respecting laws and regulation, more than, of course, establishing a culture that is value-oriented, companies must participate in community activities, in participating in philanthropic activities, and that is under, of course, the citizenship. You establish the ethics code, you train your workers, and many companies these days, because of the importance of ethics code, they have ethics officers, or sometimes they have a department. Ethics officers or committees are responsible for oversight of ethics, compliance program, assess the needs and risk that an ethics program must address, develop, revise, and disseminate the code, conduct training programs for employees, develop effective communication, establish audits and control systems, and review and modify the program to improve effectiveness. One of the things that officers do, of course, they oversee the whole process, and they train their workers, and once in a while go through auditing. Auditing is very important, is a very important part of the establishing ethics code, because without auditing, the company doesn't know what the outcome is and how the employees respect the rule of the games, which is, of course, ethics in that sense. Systems to monitor and enforce ethical standards. An effective ethics program employs many resources to monitor ethical conduct and measures the program's effectiveness. You observe the employees, you do internal audit, you prepare, of course, surveys for your employees, you establish a reporting system, reporting mechanisms in your company, you investigate specific cases, and of course you do independent audits too. Independent audits is done usually out from the outside of the company institutions, that when your auditor go through the process, you hire or you outsource another auditing to outside the company, and they come audit it for you. And that is overall what is practiced in many companies these days. Through auditing, you have to think about, of course, implementation and continuous improvement. Many companies these days, when they go through auditing, they look at the shortcomings, they look at the areas they have to strengthen their ethics code, they come back and they improve on those ethics programs. Common mistakes sometimes when it comes to ethics and establishing ethics program, these are some of the problems, some of the shortcomings that we see in many companies. Not having a clear understanding of the goals of the program from the beginning. That is a hazard, that is a problem from the beginning. Not setting realistic and measurable program objectives. Any kind of ethics program that you establish, you have to establish measurable type of outcomes, and you have to go through it. Senior management failure to take ownership of the ethics program. This is another problem. You have to have the dedication and the support of the senior management for any kind of ethics program that you establish in your company. Developing program materials that do not address the needs of the average employees. Transferring a domestic program internationally, that is wrong. Because when companies go international, they have to look at the culture of their host countries. and they have to revise their ethics code in order to match, of course, the ethics and the cultural standards of those countries. And lastly, of course, another shortcoming, of course, designing a program as a series of lectures. Ethics program is more than lectures. Ethics programs are learning, training, and of course developing a culture that respect ethical program and professional ethics. That is much more important, of course, than putting the ethics code on the wall. You have to create a culture for it. Thank you.